All right, good morning, everyone. Happy St. Patrick's Day. Today is Monday, March 17th, 2025. It is 9 a.m. All council members are present, including town attorney, town clerk, and town manager. If you please rise for the invocation, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
We thank you for being with us here this morning. As we begin this meeting, let us take a moment to express our gratitude for the opportunity to serve this community. We are thankful for the people of Fort Myers Beach, residents, visitors, and all who contribute to make our island special. May we approach today's discussions with respect, understanding, and a shared commitment to making decisions that benefit everyone. Let us be grateful for the chance to work together for a better future for our town. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, now we have the approval of the final agenda. There is one item. Town attorney would like to pull her item, the settlement agreement. Is that correct?
That is correct. We have some additional changes, and when this one comes back to you, we'll have a signed copy in the agenda, so no more changes.
Okay. Are there any other changes to the agenda? Is there a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
So moved.
Second. Got a motion by Counselor King, seconded by Counselor Safford. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, that carries unanimously. Public comment, Madam Clerk.
Up first is Becky Knight. Following Becky will be Gary Knight.
Hi, good morning.
Morning.
I'm Becky Knight, and I was here on the last council meeting back in, let's see, that was on February 18th. So this whole thing is on Miramar Street. We have a setback situation. I've been trying to communicate with Frankie and the zoning part, and I'm here to really honestly just tell you I'm just disappointed. Last time I was here on February 18th, I was told by you guys that I would be communicated back with, and I have had zero communication until I emailed Jim on March 6th and said, hey, I've had no communication at all since my last meeting I was here. And then he emailed Frankie and them guys, and then he got a response back from Frankie back to Jim, and then Jim forwarded me the email. More or less just said, the builder can do it. 12.6 feet, the builder can do it. I forwarded you all the email that I received, and it was pretty just plain, like really no questions answered, no concerns or anything like that. So I'm disappointed with, again, I was promised that I would be communicated with, and I've had really no information at all. My biggest thing is what I want is I want to know how you got to 12.6 setback. I've asked for ordinances. I've asked for all kinds of things. Exactly how did we get there? How did we get to the 12.6? This lot's 100 feet long, and they want to build 12.6 feet from the road. 12.6 feet from the road. I just, like I said, if you look at, I've looked through all the diagrams that they've sent me. If you see here on table 34.3, zoning districts, talks about residential families. It says, setbacks 25 feet, lot size at 75,000 or less. This is a 5,000 foot lot. But it has nothing but parallelograms in here. Supposedly last July, you guys created a parallelogram ordinance to kind of help out a little bit of a swing. It's just to be 17 feet. It is right now drilled at 10 feet 4. There was a mistake. They submitted two things to the zoning at 10.4, and I caught it. And I'm like, hey, come take a look at this. This is wrong. Then they try to say, well, it's really 12.6. So we're going to make them move it back 2 feet to 12.6. That's still, the house is still, when they did this, the house is at supposed to be 25 feet back. Right now it's at 23 because they did it at the original plan that they submitted. Again, all I'm looking for is a communication with you guys. I'm looking for somebody to sit down and talk to me about this. And that's all. I mean, I've emailed and asked, and that's all I'm asking. And then one other quick thing. The building coverage is only supposed to be 40% or less. If you look actually on the plans, it'll say right here, this one is at 41.34. The building coverage, on a lot. So again, it just comes back to that we have small lots, 50 by 100, and we're building bigger homes then you can't almost build on a bigger lot because of these parallelogram rules. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Becky.
Gary Knight. Following Gary will be Philip Migliorati.
Morning, everyone.
Good morning.
It just boils down to this. These plans were pushed through, in my view, in record pace, 6 weeks from putting them in to getting it approved. There are multiple issues with these plans. The 40%, there's 2 different measurements on the site plan. The site plan is at 12.5. The drainage plan is at 10.4, which is where they drilled it. Just so happens it's the one that's bigger. So they're going to just beg for forgiveness, I'm sure. You know how that happens. It just so happens that they went with the bigger holes, so less. There's no driveway on this place. I mean, if you're building that close to the road, this is a 4-bedroom, 4-bath house that's just for rental. Where are we going to put these cars? They're not going in my yard. They're not going in my neighbor's yard. I can promise you that. We stopped the work on this ourselves, realizing something was way off. I mean, just by looking at where they're drilling, like, what are they doing? And then, obviously they would have built it and it said, oops, our bad. You're just going to have to give us a variance now for this building that's right by the road. Knowing how particular this town is with other people's plans and setbacks, this just doesn't add up. The 6 weeks, all the mistakes. In fact, I think it stinks a little bit. It smells a little. If I was a betting man, I would put money on Everglades being the one asking for the new parallelogram rules. I don't know. I could get a lawyer and find out if I wanted to, but there are no issues with the old rules. In fact, 3 new buildings on our street and the 4th in the planning stage have managed to build big, beautiful houses, at least 17 feet from the road, with a parallelogram swing of 8 feet, which is fine. They can park, everyone can live. To my knowledge, Everglades is the only builder using these new rules, because every new building on our street, just on Miramar, they're not going with these new 12'5" things. Anyway, back to our safety issues. We haven't had a single answer on any of our safety concerns. Parking, blocking the road up, emergency vehicles being able to get down, trash removal if there's another hurricane, any of those. We've had silence. These issues have not gone away. The town has not been transparent with what Everglades is going to do to correct the issues that we pointed out to it. We do not know what Everglades is doing right now. It could be we go away for a week and they've started building and it's tough, whatever. What we really want is a couple of council members to come down the street and actually look at this lot. Eyes on it will show you it is off. We'd love another engineer to overlook these plans and see, how did this get passed? We'd love some kind of review to go over the findings of the new engineer. We've been meeting with all of us. So I'd love you to come to the site, because as soon as you get there, you'll know. That's all I can say.
Thank you, Gary.
Philip Migliorati.
Hi, Philip Migliorati, 100 Tarpon Road. Thank you for your time. I'm here to speak basically some of the same contents of these folks had, but at a different location. 8211 Estero. It's a vacant house. It's been vacated since obviously Ian. It was sold to an investor, off-island investor, who's bought several properties, and he's been doing, for lack of better words, Frankenstein renovations on all these properties. And now he still hasn't touched 8211. I mean, he hasn't lifted a finger. Okay, I'm right next door to him. The place is disgusting. Iguanas, rats. The pool is a cesspool. There's no fence around it again. Okay, I've emailed several of you. Okay. John is about the only one that regularly gets back to me. No disrespect. I know everyone's busy. Okay. But I know I've been included all of you in emails before. I've included Mr. Hyatt. I've been told by Mr. King that Mr. Kaepernick, Kropisic, I'm sorry, Frankie, I'm sorry, would get a hold of me. Nobody picks up the phone, not an email. My phone is on every email. Okay. You know where I live. Nobody's been there. Okay. Mr. Adderholt, you've decided, I guess, maybe not to get back to me. Maybe you're busy. Okay. I've emailed you several times. I've asked for a meeting. Just explain to me what's going on. We need the house knocked down. It was already red tagged a year ago now, I think, last year. It was on the red tag list, the first one that came out. And the guy ran in here probably and got a permit to rehab it, and you took him off of it. 6 months went by, nothing. He did nothing, physically nothing there. He hasn't picked up a piece of garbage off the property. I'm tired of picking it up out of my pool. I'm tired of cleaning my property to try to make it look nice. Okay. And not getting anything. Okay. So I don't know where to go. Okay. It's the same problem that these folks have. There's no communication. I email you. I emailed you. Okay. The last 2 emails, you haven't even given me a courtesy to say, I don't want to talk to you. I'd be happy if you said, you're a crackpot. I don't want to talk to you. Okay. But you can't even email me back, Mr. Adderholt. Okay. So, and you sit there and look at me like, I don't know. Why can't we just get them? I can't come down and sit. I'm a calm person. I can sit down at a desk, and if you explain it to me and say, we legally can't do it, or there's other parameters, but we keep giving him extensions. Okay. Mr. Speck gave him another month to do it, and he didn't like that. He wanted 4 months. Well, when do we stop? When does it get knocked down and cleaned up? That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm just going
That's all I
to
have
say,
signed up.
Mr. Mayor, a point of personal privilege. I did respond to you, and I actually met with Frankie, and I raised the issue. I gave you his response. It was unacceptable, and I don't disagree with you. The situation is unacceptable, but I did respond to you, and we had some correspondence. And then you repeatedly reach out to me, which is absolutely fine. And I raised this with the town. They've got a whole list of properties they're working on, but I was responsive to you, and I'm sorry that you feel that way. But the answer was the same. We're still trying to get some of these property owners to take action. It's very frustrating, and I understand your frustration, but I think it's a little disingenuous. I did not only respond, but I met with the town manager and Frankie about the property, and was very strongly advocating your position. I'm not the enforcement person, but I'm sorry you feel you have not been communicated with. But we'll stay.
Respond?
No, but we'll stay on it. I mean,
Can I
yeah.
respond?
I don't know. It's up to the mayor. But yeah.
Well, you
Sure.
opened it. Go ahead.
That's
As long as
fine.
nobody else
Yeah,
has any issues, go-
I
go
certainly
ahead.
didn't mean to do any disrespect.
I emailed you Friday again.
Yeah, you emailed me Friday, and I was going to meet with Tom Yanzo, our enforcement guy, because I was come to the meeting. It actually was on my
I
list.
can't read your mind though, Mr. Adderholt.
No, I know, but I
But
didn't.
it's simple. I'll get back to you.
Yeah, I know, but we've got a lot going on.
Well, I have a lot going on too. We
Yeah.
all do. But John was able to get back to me.
Well, that's wonderful, and John's a much better person than I am.
No, you're not. No,
But
no,
I'm
no,
doing
no.
the best
Nobody's
I can.
saying
Yeah,
that.
we're doing
Okay.
the best we can.
Well,
You should-
when do we get down to an answer after 2.5 years and you keep giving him its extensions?
Frankie, can you set up a meeting? We
That's
can't
all
keep
I've
going
asked
back and
for.
forth. Just, can you set up a meeting so you could sit down with these two
Yes.
guys, and they can give you better answers than obviously.
Yeah, that's
we-
like,
because
yeah,
we-
if,
to the vice mayor's point, we aren't the code enforcement, they are. We have to make sure that they're communicating with you. If they're not, we can control that. But they have to control the enforcement part. These two
That's
people over
great.
here.
that's all I'm asking for.
They will-
But we can't,
Please
but
don't
thank
leave,
you.
or Frankie. if you
And I'm
can go
sorry it
set
had
up-
to come to this to make me come down here and take my time and your time. Okay. It shouldn't happen. Okay. This should happen immediately. Whatever.
Well,
Thank you.
in perfect
Communication's
world-
everything. That's all I can say.
All right.
Sure.
Who else?
That is all I have signed up. We have both members that are, or
Anyone else
applicants
like to
for
speak during
AAC.
public comment? Seeing none, we'll close public comment. Who needs coffee?
Not me.
I have mine, thank you.
Yes, okay. Next is local achievements and recognitions. Council Stafford, start with you.
Oh, great. Being the Irish kid on the council, I want to give a great shout out to Barb, Deb, and Dawn at the Women's Club. The St. Patrick's Day parade Saturday was fantastic. And it was the first time they've ever done a parade, that group. And it was really special to see the South End come alive again. And the after event was fantastic too. So I'm going to give a big shout out to them. Happy St. Patrick's Day.
Council Woodson.
Well, in the week before that, we had the Shrimp Fest
Hmm.
parade, and that was always fun. It's always fun for that. And huge crowds came in. I was kind of sad. I was in the parade and we ran out of beads and everything else before we even got halfway through. I mean, knew they were so popular. I had arms
Rookie.
of beads and yeah. So next year we either have to plan better or we need to double the size of the beads. So
And we all know which way that goes.
yeah, right.
Is that it?
That's it.
All right. Vice Mayor?
I would just say ditto on the women's club. What a shot in the arm for the Santini Plaza in the South End. That parade was just spectacular. I had a privilege of judging and great participation by the community. And I would also recognize this morning the Margaritaville folks for their new signage that encourages people to use the pedestrian walkover right there in front of their building. If folks use that, and we've talked about this a lot, but I know the locals know about it, but if you could share with your friends and neighbors and guests who are visiting the island that you just use that pedestrian walkover, not only is it beautiful, there's sidewalk, or there's stairs and elevators to get you over there. It's a great view, but you save your friends and neighbors a lot of grief as we wrestle with these traffic issues. And kudos to Beach Talk Radio for highlighting the walkover this past weekend. And so that's the more we use that walkover and encourage people not to push that little button to stop the traffic to cross the street. It's great for everybody. That's all I've got. Thank you.
Council King?
Well, it was an extremely busy weekend, and I'm grateful for this meeting this morning so I can catch up on my sleep. Just wake me up before you go.
Oh my.
Aw, come on. No George Michael Wham fans out there?
Wham.
Yeah.
I'll just echo a great job out of the Fort Myers Beach Women's Club for bringing back the St. Patrick's Day Parade. So many participants and so many people were lining the route, and the mayor did a great job as a leprechaun. I don't know what you did with your shillelagh, but I also want to thank Deb Nelson and Barb Mazeski for their contribution in putting it on. And thanks to the Lee County Sheriff's Office. They had a tremendous presence on Saturday there. And Commander Layler, thanks along with Sheriff Marcina for that. It was great to welcome back the Fort Myers Beach Public Library yesterday. Another well-attended event. Thanks to Jen Fleming for all her hard work in putting together the festivities. I want to thank Andy Hyatt, Nicole Sherzin, Tracy Kohler, Jason Smalley, and Sarah Probst for being there. Jason and Sarah, their efforts to obtain resident feedback on the comp plan and the land development code. Appreciate that. And also saw Mark LaFay from, I think, Public Works was there as well. So thank you, everybody.
All right. Well, you nailed them all. You got the only one I was going to get after all that was the library. So it's nice that Jan Fleming and her team did a great job yesterday opening back up the library. And if you haven't had a chance to get in there and check it out, it's a nice community center, community welcoming building to come back, and we're glad they're open finally. Better late than never. So yeah.
And I can add Jeff's staff and Frankie's staff for helping with the parade as well, with the cones and cleaning up afterwards.
Yeah,
Appreciate
great.
it, guys.
Thank you.
Didn't know that. Good job, guys. All right. Next is advisory committee items and report. Dave? We can start with Dave. Sorry, Sam. He got here before you did. Nope, go. Oh, Chris was here. I'm sorry, Chris. You're hiding behind
Chris.
I'm sorry, Chris.
Good morning, councilors, Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, town staff. Happy St. Patty's Day. It feels like we've been doing it all week, but so I'm Dave Nussbaum. I'm chairman of the MRF Advisory Committee, and I'm here to report on our March meeting. Number one, and I don't want to steal Chairman King's thunder. She's coming up here and she will reiterate the joint meeting of Captains for Clean Water And I am going to echo exactly what she says, so I'll let her tell you. It'll keep my time short. Secondly, at our meeting, we had Dr. Chris Daly from the Florida Gulf Coast University give an update on where we are regarding the computer scenarios that are being run for Hurricane Ian and what would happen if we had had solid structures, berms, and a combination of both along the island. Those will be due out in September. He also said that because of Hurricane Milton, they had some additional input and they were going to run it. He categorized Milton as a once every 25-year storm, where Ian is a once every 100-year storm. I spoke on behalf of the entire island. I said, we really hope we don't give you any more examples for your computer.
Exactly.
So those should be out in September, and we're anxiously awaiting the results of that. Thirdly, we had 2 residents speak out, and the MRF committee didn't know what to do, so I'm coming to the council asking for some guidance. 2 residents came in and wanted to know what could be done as far as dredging the canals. And we said, we're not sure who has the responsibility, whether it's the owners on the canal, whether it's the town combination. There are several canals that are filled with sand after both storms and are almost impassable for boat traffic. And they are very concerned because they live on a canal and can't use a boat. We kind of punted on that one because we didn't know what to do. So I'm bringing that forward to the council, asking for guidance. We'll be more than happy to investigate or do what we can. Finally, the infamous Murph Award was given to Ben Duvall and the Tuna Skin employees and their 400 plus volunteers. On February 16th, Tuna Skin organized 400 plus volunteers to comb the entire island. They picked up over 3 tons of garbage. They had a $5,000 check that was provided by sponsors from local businesses. This was their 10th annual cleanup, and they donated the $5,000 to keep Lee County beautiful. So unanimously, the committee voted that they should, Ben Duvall, the Tuna Skin employees and volunteers should get the Murph Award for this month. And that's the end of my report. Are there any questions?
The only thing I could direct you to with the canal dredging, and I don't remember the years, I want to say it was late 90s or early 2000s. There was a group that started trying, and they were close to getting a resolution. Maybe Jason could probably help you. There was a plan they were working on to do a town-wide plan of maintaining the canals. And it kind of, I believe the people on Santos were the ones that were behind starting it. And it kind of fizzled out in the early 2000s, if memory serves me right. Maybe Jason can get you in contact. I can't remember his name. He lives right on the corner of Palermo Circle and Santos. He was one of the people that was very vocal about it. I would suggest the MRF starts there. I believe Sanibel also has a town-wide or city-wide plan in place for the dredging that the city maintains it. So we definitely have to have a plan in place because we don't get assistance from FEMA without it. So right now there really isn't, I hate to say it, but there really isn't a plan. I know that Keith was working on it, and I think you guys have picked up and tried to run with how we get that plan in place and what it looks like. And we have had initial discussions about it. Does it become an island-wide thing for all the taxpayers or just taxpayers on each canal, or how that works? But that's where I would start if I was Murph.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Didn't we have some folks, I'm sorry, on the south end that actually paid into it and we had
Laguna
to
Shores
refund?
Yeah. Laguna Shores, because that had happened once before.
Yeah, they had our documents, our research that we found, internal documents from the town, was that they had homeowners contribute in, and the town was going to match. The project fizzled out, didn't happen, and the homeowners were returned their funds back. just because it didn't happen. And
Well,
that was
Ian
the
happened, that's why. it
Yeah.
did.
Exactly.
It was a 50-50 split.
Yeah.
I would too, just to nuance this a little bit, Dave, I do believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, Andy and Frankie, there's two separate issues. To the mayor's point, because the canal status was not measured appropriately prior to Ian, it was difficult for us to get FEMA funds to help clean that out, or at least to repair those. And as I understand it, we are currently going through that process of setting those measurements and parameters, and we have funding for that. So that's happening.
You are correct.
I think
Yep.
what we're wrestling with today, Dave, is to how to fund the actual dredging of the canals themselves. So the measuring is occurring. So in case we have another storm, we'll have something to sort of bookmark it against. But the actual funds for the dredging is I think the challenge that we're trying to fund both in DC and at the state level, right?
Correct. Our FEMA gentleman that we had here a year ago, Daniel Tomzak, when he left his project that he was doing, he came back with another group through the R2P2 group, and they sent people out town-wide and took not only outfall measurements, but also canal mouth and canal end measurements, sedimentation studies, and what each canal was originally dredged to, starting out wide. And so that data is already there. We have the metric. All we have to do is find a solution to move that metric along. But yeah, we did it. They did a really thorough job of investigating the waterways, and we know we're up against on a lot of them.
Okay. Anything else?
I think too, Dave, just, and there isn't any turf war because you and the chair of the Anchorage Advisory Committee have a very good working relationship, and that is manifested in that joint meeting we just had. I think at some point we need to, as a council, delineate, and maybe it's jointly, and maybe there's aspects of the canals that are better suited for MRF, and maybe there's aspects of the canals that are better suited for the Anchorage Advisory Committee. At some point, we're going to, particularly if we get some funding, we're going to have to figure out as a council how to designate who has responsibility over those canals and how do we do that. And that would be a great, maybe another great joint meeting opportunity to kind of figure that all out. We talked about it some time ago, but I don't think we've had the opportunity because there's been a lot going on to figure out the jurisdictional dynamic of our advisory committees with these canals. And again, I don't think there's one easy answer one way or the other, but it's something to talk about and think about.
I can reach out to Chairperson King and we can have a discussion and hopefully have another joint meeting workshop once we get some additional information. And I would like permission to get in touch with Frankie and the other people that have some information that can share with us regarding past plans so that we can at least gather the detail and then decide what the best plan should be to jointly advise the council.
So be it.
Thank you.
I think it sounds great.
That's it.
Thanks,
Dave.
Dave.
Thanks for taking this on.
All right, Chris, sorry, I didn't see you hiding behind Joe over there.
We're gonna tag team this.
Okay.
Good morning, everyone. I'm
morning.
Chris King, and I am Chair of the Anchorage Advisory Committee. So I want to touch on a couple of things that, Dave kind of left you hanging on. So one of them is that back in February, we did have a joint meeting of MRF and the AAC, and we invited in Captain Chris Whitman from Captains for Clean Water. And it was a very educational and informational session. He gave us a lot of information about all of the efforts underway to make sure that one of our primary natural resources, our water, is clean and clear, because we know that that is incredibly important for the vitality of our community, for economically, for the beauty to continue. So we jointly, MRF and the AAC, want to encourage the town council to actively lobby for the continuation of the Everglades Restoration Project, because that is going to help not eliminate, but mitigate the amount of fresh water that comes from the Caloosahatchee releases and does damage to our environment. Fish kills, it helps with red tide bloom, and if we can eliminate or at least reduce the amount of water that is being released into our wonderful waterway, we're going to mitigate what the effects are from red tide. So I know you're going to Tallahassee soon, so something to keep in mind if there's a way to put in a good word for the work that captains are doing and the Everglades Restoration Project. We would appreciate that.
No problem.
All right. Second thing, also talked about figuring out the duties of the different advisory committees, and that is one thing that we're going to work on in the next few months on the Anchorage Advisory Committee. Our historian in residence, Sam Lawwell, came across a number of different documents, and there's, sorry, did I say Sam? Because I'm so excited about Sam coming up next. Okay, Ted Lawwell. He has all of these documents at his disposal and has been, I think, with the committee very close to its inception. So he came up with some things, and there's a lack of synchronicity between the different documents. So that's something that we're going to be working with Amy on to try to make sure that we understand. Okay, Amy, yes. And Nancy, we've had a conversation with Nancy to make sure that we have a source of truth document about exactly what the AAC's duties are in supporting the harbor master and supporting the town. So that's going to be work in progress. But we do have something exciting that we want to ask you for permission to do. And I'm going to bring up Vice Chair Sam Lurie, and he is going to give you the details.
I know that was a test because you think I don't listen to you. So
I know.
I jumped in on that.
Thank you, Chris. Good morning, Mr. Mayor, council, and staff. I'm Sam Lurie, the Vice Chair of the Anchorage Advisory Committee. I have here with me Chris King and Harbor Master Curtis Ludwig, who will be, after I read a short report, will join me for any questions and comments. Before I start, I want to ask our liaison, Vice Mayor Adderholt, is there still a opening on the Anchorage Advisory Committee?
It's my understanding there is an opening, and we'll be voting on the folks. There's two people here today to vie for that replacement spot, and we may be voting this morning to affirm one of those two candidates.
Great. We like to keep a full committee if possible. I come before you today to ask for approval to hold the 14th iteration of the Anchorage Advisory Committee Cruiser Appreciation Day event on April 27th from 1 to 3:30 p.m. at Bayside Park. The last time this event was held was March 25th, 2022. You should have a one-page overview of the event in your packet. I'll call it a few details for the benefit of those who are watching. The purpose of our event is to recognize and celebrate the boaters who use our mooring field, while also educating the public about how it operates, the economic benefits to the town it provides, and the environmental impacts it mitigates. We are planning to make this event self-funding, so we're asking for your approval to solicit individuals and businesses for both in-kind donations and drawing prizes and perhaps food, as well as monetary donations to cover other expenses. Harbor Master Captain Curtis has offered to cover the $400 or so for floating keychains for participating boaters from his budget, but all extra funds generated through donations will be provided back to the town to support the mooring field operations. Setup for the event will be 2 hours prior to and 30 minutes after. The event time is 1:30 to 3. I'm sorry.
1 to 3:30.
1 to 3:30. Thank you, John.
I listen to
And the
Sam.
concert is scheduled to begin from 4 to 7. So we will have the area cleared for the 4 to 7 concert at Bayside Park. We hope to make this an annual event and add other events in the future. This event is free and open to the public. We urge the public to come to the event. It's a great time. We are inviting select educational nonprofits to set up tables. The mooring field, MRF, Coast Guard Auxiliary, Captains for Clean Water, Keep Lee County Beautiful. Boaters currently registered at the mooring field at the time of the event will be invited to attend and will receive a free meal for up to 4 people that are associated with their vessel. We also provide a free meal to invited town staff and other VIPs. Committee Chair Chris King will provide invitation information. We'll promote the event through town channels and the Fort Myers Beach Chamber. This is an opportunity for boaters and town residents to visit, mingle, and enjoy the afternoon leading up to the Sunday evening concert. In summary, we're asking for your approval to present the event and to solicit both in-kind and monetary contributions to support it so that it's self-funding. And This time I'd like to ask Chris and Curtis to join me for any questions or comments.
Just a quick question for Nancy. Nancy, is there any legal roadblocks in allowing them to solicit what they're asking for?
No, because they're not soliciting it for their own personal benefit. It's being a request for the benefit of the town. Generally, those things are handled through the management or the town manager's office as far as donations to the town. They're just basically an arm of the town making that request. There's no personal gain at all to them. That money is going to be used to the town.
And you will see that we have changed our plan from doing a raffle to doing a drawing. So we will not be selling tickets for anything, but we will be allowing people to have a ticket to participate in the drawing. And if people want to make a monetary contribution, that's fine, but they don't have to.
And I'm sorry, what was the date again?
April 27th, the last Sunday in April.
1 to 3:30.
So could I just ask that for the 501c3s that would participate to consider Friends of Lovers Key
Oh.
for Lovers Key State Park with all of their beaches and water and boating. And I think they would be
Excellent.
a great complement to that.
We want to have enough for people to see, but we don't want it to be overwhelming
Right,
in
I get it.
the Bayside Park space. But
I
that's
get it.
Other questions?
I have a quick question, and I'm not putting you on the spot because I know that this process is still in the planning stage. But do you have a ballpark number as to the cost? Because the alternative would be that the town would provide them some money to actually have the event.
Yeah, I think it all really depends on how much the food costs for the people that we're trying to provide the complimentary meal for. So we have not had conversations with the downtown restaurants yet to see if we can get discounts on that or get some contributions of that. I'm really thinking $2,000 to $2,500. I mean, it could push a little bit higher, but I think that's a pretty good number.
So the additional benefit, I think, is the marketing of the town's mooring fields and making sure that those spaces are occupied. And that is the public purpose of having it. So that is an option if the town wanted to allocate some money. And I have to ask Joe because he knows where all the money is. If that's another option that is out there.
I would, if I could, Nancy, I think that's an excellent point. And I think at a minimum, I would ask the council to consider at least giving Curtis and the town staff the flexibility to utilize some funds if necessary. Because to your point, Nancy, the mooring field is by designation a revenue neutral entity for the town. It doesn't make a profit, and it doesn't, we need to charge fees that allow us to break even. And obviously that fluctuates back and forth. And sometimes we need additional money for infrastructure improvements. Sometimes we get that through grants. But what the Anchorage Advisory Committee is doing, not only is it a gracious gesture to those who are regular customers, but it's a tremendous marketing opportunity for the mooring field. And it would be like running a couple of newspaper ads. I mean, but in this world, a word of mouth is so important. And if they have a good experience in Fort Myers Beach, they tell all their friends and other neighbors and boater friends, and that word just spreads. And we already have a very high rating in Fort Myers Beach, but it's building goodwill, it's marketing, and Chris has a marketing background. I mean, it's a great investment for the town. And again, it's not really the taxpayers that would be sponsoring it. It's the actual boaters themselves who utilize the mooring field. So I think I'm very confident in their fundraising capabilities, but if they do, it is tough post-Ian to raise dollars. And so if the town has to help through the mooring field fund, that seems like a reasonable expense. And again, it's not taxpayer dollars, it's those users of the mooring field that support the mooring field in a perfect world.
What do you think, Joe? You are the gatekeeper of the funds.
No, I think that's reasonable. And so basically what we're talking about, if there's any difference between what they're able to raise for the event themselves and the actual cost that would be absorbed by the mooring field budget. And if by chance there isn't enough in that budget to cover that small difference, we also have a contingency budget outside of the mooring field that could be tapped into if it became necessary for that.
I think you should also reach out, I don't know if you have, to the San Carlos Sail and Power Squadron.
San Carlos, what?
Sail
And power squad.
and Power Squadron.
Okay.
They're the guys that help make sure all the, they do training for captains. They also, for free, help make sure that your boat is safe. And it's a great group. Their office is right off island, but I can get you the
safety things too.
Yeah, they do
safety lessons.
safety lessons, all
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
It's a great group. I can get you their contact info.
Okay, great, thanks.
Sure.
Kurt, you get something to say? He's like, if I have to.
Mayor, just to introduce myself, I'm Curtis Ludwig. I'm Harbor Master for the town. Mayor, I don't have, I think these two members said everything, unless y'all have any questions for myself.
No, I think just I'm okay with the suggestion by Vice Mayor Adderholt.
I am. I'm totally
Scott?
on board
Sure.
with that.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Will that cover it, or do we need an actual motion, or?
I think a motion would be appropriate. And basically you are providing them the authority and the permission to proceed with their event that encompasses some solicitation of in-kind contributions or financial for the benefit of the town, for the public purposes that have been discussed.
And authorizing the town manager to execute as needed.
Yes.
So before you make that motion, Vice Mayor, so those that would like to make in-kind donations, who do they make the donations to?
It should flow through the town manager and finance and not directly to the Anchorage Advisory Committee. If the Anchorage Advisory Committee receives any type of funds, it should immediately be turned over to town staff.
But again, if someone is still writing checks, who would they write the check to?
The town of Fort Myers Beach.
Okay. And I'm assuming, Chris, you guys will get all that information.
Yes,
Okay,
absolutely. We'll get the process down.
take it away.
And just point of order, then we'd have to make a list of that, bring it to the council to accept the donations.
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, I would move that we allow the Anchorage Advisory Committee, in an effort to host the Cruiser Appreciation Day on April 27th, the ability to solicit and raise funds consistent with the advice of the town attorney. And we also would utilize the town's funds that are raised by the fees that we charge the mooring field to support this event if needed, if there's a shortage of fundraising and the town has to fill that, the town mooring field has to fill that gap.
I will second.
Okay.
Any discussion?
If I may.
Yep.
We also are not a nonprofit, so it's not tax exempt. All we can do is give a letter saying that they've made a donation to the town. What they do with their auditors and finances, their situation, but we do not say that this is tax deductible.
Okay. And if for some reason we get an overage of what you need, then that would go into the
Town's
fund.
budget, yep.
Okay. Any other discussion? All those in favor, signify
Aye.
by saying aye.
Aye.
All right. Hearing no opposition, motion carries unanimously. Thanks, guys.
Thank
Thanks
you
for the
so
hard
much.
work.
Thank you very much.
I just have one closing comment.
Sure.
I just wanted to, Mayor always says how many interesting people there are in this beach. Curtis will vouch for this. If you want to show up at this event, these people on the mooring field are well-traveled. They're some of the most interesting people that ever came to this beach. So encourage everybody to attend.
It's always a good event.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Keith
Doug.
Wilkins is part of that group now.
Yeah.
He is. He
He's
just, he just anchored.
sailed into town.
He just showed up last night.
Right. Yep.
Good luck with that.
That'll be a party boat.
Thanks, Kurt. Not so much. All right, Anchorage Advisory Committee appointment. We have two members that have applied for the one open seat. They're both here. You want to come up first and if you'd like to say a few words? One is Terry Carlin Kelly, who's up here now, and the other is Ronald Fleming, Ron Fleming.
Good morning, all. I am Terry Carlin Kelly, and I'm planning to be on the Anchorage Advisory Committee. I live on the island, and I'm a boater all the time. I'm very interested in what these guys just said. I didn't realize that they were going to be making a presentation this morning. So that's exactly why I wanted to be on the committee, was to help them.
Hey, thank you, sir. Ron? You even got the green Crocs on. Look at them go.
I love it.
And my orange.
Yeah.
Good morning, Ron Fleming, staff, council. I'm here to also apply for the committee, much as Terry said. I'm very interested in the water. I was recently at the Mound House where I learned that the very first aquatic preserve is where our mooring field is. It started in the 50s. I was unaware of that. I'm interested in current events and history. I think I would be an asset to the committee, and I'd appreciate your support. Thank you.
All right. Do we do anything special? Just
Fill in your ballots.
fill
You
in our
should have
ballots?
one.
Okay. Oh, you want them? So discreet.
Yeah, it's going right up on the thing.
Oh my God. All right, ready? In the back, Scott Safford, Ron Fleming. Karen Woodson is Ron Fleming. Dan Allers, Ron Fleming. John King, Ron Fleming. And Jim Adderholt, Ron Fleming.
So is this an accurate representation of everyone's vote?
Yes.
Yes.
So the winner is?
Ronald Fleming.
Ron Fleming.
Now, do we need a motion?
Yes.
Accept? Okay. Is
So
there-
moved.
Is there a motion to accept Ron Fleming
And appoint.
and appoint Ron Fleming as the
Yes.
final seat for the Anchorage Advisory Committee seat?
Sorry, it woke me up. So moved.
I'll second.
Motion by Counselor King, second by Counselor Woodson. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Congratulations, Ron. Now get to work. Next is the approval of the minutes from the town council meeting on March 3rd, 2025. Is there a motion to approve the minutes or any changes to the minutes?
Move for approval.
Motion by Counselor King,
Second.
seconded by Counselor Woodson. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries unanimously. We have nothing on the consent agenda, nothing to be removed, and no public hearings. So that takes us to our administrative agenda, which is our first one. It is a resolution of the town council of the town of Fort Myers Beach, Florida, authorizing the town manager or designee to apply for, execute upon, award, and administer a grant from Florida Department of Environmental Protection's Clean Vessel Act for funds in the amount of $61,552 with a match from the town of Fort Myers Beach of $20,517 for a project total of $82,069 for pump outs of the vessels within the town's jurisdiction, authorizing the town manager or designee to execute related documents and providing an effective date.
So this is
Ricky?
just basically a re-up of the agreement that we have that provides us the funds for the pump out boat itself and for the actions that we use within the mooring field. It's an application.
Just an
to go
application.
forward.
Yes. Any questions of staff? Is there a motion for resolution?
Wait, okay, Joe, is this budgeted?
Yes, it will. Well, this is for next year and it will be incorporated into next year's budget. And this is something we've done on an annual basis.
Okay. Thanks for the clarification.
And it's an assumption of getting that grant that we're applying.
Yes.
And it looks like it's, the match is funded by the pump out fee revenue.
Yes, and basically that's what would cover that.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Is there a motion for resolution 25-84?
So moved.
Second.
A motion by Counselor Woodson, seconded by Counselor Safford. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify
Roll
by
call.
saying aye.
It's a roll
Oh,
call.
roll call, sorry. Oh, it's a resolution. All right. Counselor Woodson?
Aye.
Counselor Safford?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Adderholt?
Aye.
Counselor King?
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well. That motion carries unanimously. Next is a resolution of the Town Council of the Town of Fort Myers Beach, Florida, authorizing the town manager or designee to apply for, execute upon, and administer a grant from West Coast Inland Navigation District's Waterway Development Program for the funds in the amount of $35,000 with a match from the Town of Fort Myers Beach of 100% for a project total of $70,000 for waterway law enforcement assistance, authorizing the town manager or designee to execute related documents and providing an effective date.
And again, this is similar to the last item where it's been an annual type situation. And this is for LCSO to provide law enforcement, not only in the back bay, the mooring field, but around the entire island. So a cooperative agreement.
Questions for Frankie or Joe?
This comes out of the general fund or?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
And same thing, this would be for next year, so it would be budgeted for.
Yes, for next year.
Okay. If there's no other questions, is there a motion for resolution 25-88?
So moved.
I'll second.
Motion by Counselor Safford, seconded by Counselor Woodson. Any further discussion?
I don't think you had the right motion, right.
Did I?
Should
what
be
did-
2587.
Oh, I'm sorry. Resolution 2587. I jumped ahead. My bad.
Oopsie. Keep going, Dan.
Yeah, right. Any further discussion on the correct resolution 25-87? Counselor Stafford?
Aye.
Counselor Woodson?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Adderholt?
Aye.
Counselor King?
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well. That motion carries unanimously. Next is resolution 25-88. It is a resolution of the town of Fort Myers Beach approving an agreement between the town of Fort Myers Beach and Raftelius Financial Consultants, Inc. to perform a water and stormwater rate study, providing an effective date. Joe?
So Joe Onzik, Finance Director. The last water and stormwater rate study was conducted for the town in July of 2020. And that's what was used to establish the rates that are billed to homeowners or residents on this island. And those rates were in effect for the last 5 years. They need now to be updated so that we can do it for the next 5 years going forward. It seems to be, in my opinion, the best path forward would be to use the same rate consultant that Lee County uses, because they also use them for their, like for example, their sewage rates, which Lee County provides to the island. And so they're already incorporating data from the town of Fort Myers Beach into their study for Lee County purposes. So this would make use of that and their familiarity to develop the same similar rates, and we'd at least be using consistent methodology that's used for Lee County in the rate study. And by also utilizing them, we can quote unquote piggyback on the contract from Lee County and use the same rates that are charged to Lee County for their services. And it's for the stormwater study, it would be a not to exceed amount of $37,000, and also for the water rate study, it would be a not to exceed amount of $37,000. The actual cost will depend on the amount of time that's they actually put into the study. But if it's approved, that could begin immediately, and they would use the last 5 years worth of actual data to develop the rates going forward, plus anything that we're projecting to change going forward.
Questions for Joe? Vice Mayor?
Joe, I understand why this makes practical sense. I just want to challenge you a little bit in the sense that as a customer of Lee County, and to use the same entity for a rate study, often called a cost of service study, are you comfortable that our interests are aligned? I understand the practical piece of this, but we're buying bulk water from them. And if we're going to use the same entity that Lee County is using, do you have a sense from this particular vendor that they'll be representing our interests in this study?
I think so. It's hard to imagine where there would be a conflict because they're not. they may be establishing the rates that Lee County charges us for water, but this is to help us charge the rates that would cover our expenses. So it's really two separate things.
Excuse me. But, and I'm guessing if, because we buy the bulk water from them and we distribute it ourselves and we bill it ourselves for the water side, but on the sewer side, we just bill for it.
Yep.
I'm guessing that rate study would be less for the sewer than it would be on the water. Is that your guess?
It would not even incorporate sewer rates. We're talking about this. It would be water rates to cover our administrative costs, and then it would be the stormwater, not sewer.
Stormwater piece. Okay, I just that's a helpful clarification. And so, yeah, it just seems a little. I just as long as you're comfortable that it's not. I understand the economies here, but having an outside entity who would be an advocate for our island versus working with the entity of Lee County, it just gives me a little bit of pause, but I do understand the economies here, and it certainly makes practical sense. It's certainly a lot easier. I just would encourage you as you go through this process to make sure these folks are somewhat independent from Lee County and looking out for our interests as they go through this process. Is it your understanding that they're also going to do a cost of service study? Are we going to have separate rates for residents and then larger users for water on our island? Do we currently have that? And is that, how do we deal with that at this point?
There are different rate classifications for commercial versus residential.
Mm-hmm.
And then it depends on, actually, the rates are developed based on the amount of usage or the size of the connections as well. So there's a variety of rates involved between single family, multifamily, commercial, and then the size of the water lines.
Do we also have a volumetric rate as well versus just a stable flat rate?
Oh yes. Yes. So there's a base rate, and then there's the usage rate. So it's per 1,000 gallons is the usage rate.
And the goal is to keep those policies the same in terms of how we allocate costs for a cost of service studies. Just keep it consistent with what we have been doing.
In terms of how
we allocate costs to larger users versus residential users.
Well, part of the study, I mean, I would think so, but I mean, part of the study may uncover something that we may need to adjust just to make sure that we're covering our costs. But basically, they're going to be taking that as a foundation, and the goal is not to do anything dramatic. Nothing dramatic would just be to fine tune the rates.
So if one particular customer group was a cost causer, they would potentially be charged more based upon the outcome of the study. Then
that would be my understanding.
Yeah. Okay, it's a practical approach, and it does make sense. I would hope you'll stay engaged in it and just kind of hold their feet to the fire a little bit to make sure they're looking out for Fort Myers Beach and just don't get caught up into that larger Lee County. Not that Lee County's doing anything nefarious or anything, but I'm glad you're there, and I'm glad you'll be watching it.
Well, perhaps we could talk offline as to what your concerns might be, because I'm having a hard time envisioning what could even possibly be a concern. So maybe you have some insight that I don't have.
That's fine. No, I think it's an interesting approach, and it's certainly very efficient, and probably will end up saving us some money.
Any other questions for Joe?
How will this be paid for?
This would be paid for out of the water fund and the stormwater fund.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Is there a motion for resolution 25-88?
So moved.
Motion by Counselor King,
Second.
seconded by Counselor Woodson. Any further discussion? Counselor King,
Aye.
Counselor Woodson,
Aye.
Counselor Safford,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Adderhold.
Aye.
I'm an aye as well. That motion carries unanimously. Next is resolution 25-86, a resolution of the Town Council of the Town of Fort Myers Beach, Florida, authorizing the First Amendment to the Professional Service Provider Agreement dated October 1st, 2024 with Softrim LLC, increasing the not to exceed amount for the first contract year by $350,000 to a total of $556,784 for additional services and items related to the renovation of the town hall and providing for an effective date. Joe? Or Andy?
I can kind of lead off and then turn it over to you. Obviously, this is something that needed to be done with our town hall, and we had them under contract, so we just expanded their contract. Obviously, it's everything for the new chambers. The building that we purchased was cut up into a bunch of offices. There wasn't one system in there, so we're creating one system. Security cameras, traffic cameras for the pedestrians out front to be able to log into, sound, certain things that go to each floor with the computer cabling and everything throughout the entire building. So it's obviously something needed, and it is paid for out of the insurance proceeds. But I'll turn it over to you, Joe.
Yes, and so, as Andy said, we already had Softrum under contract, and they did provide their hourly rates. It did not necessarily include equipment, and so in order to purchase equipment through them, they provided us with quotes, and then Nicole did a very good job of doing independent quotes for every single piece of equipment from other sources, just to make sure that their prices provided by Softrum were competitive, and in every single case they were. And so by doing that independent evaluation, we were able to make sure that the cost of the equipment was competitive, and then along with the cost of installing the equipment. So over the course of time, the total cost came up to $343,000 so far, just to make sure that we only have to come before the council once. I've added a contingency to bring it up of $21,000 and bring it up to a total of $365,000 not to exceed amount, to cover any other possible changes that they may do to finish things for the building. And by then doing this would formally approve an increase to their contract.
So does this contract cover everything as far as Wi-Fi, TVs, the speaker system, sound system,
Yes.
microphones?
All encompassing, yes.
All encompassing. And is it future proof? I mean, did they do fiber optics? Did they just use Cat 5, Cat 6? I mean, what?
It looks like I'm not a tech, but it looks like it's.
He's
Cat
back here. You just have to
5.
nod.
Yes.
So they did use, okay. He knew what I was talking about. I just wanted to make sure it wasn't, we're putting in adequate stuff, because if you look at what this contract was, Vice Mayor Adderholt and I were on the council when we went through
Right.
this exercise for the last town hall, and it was fairly expensive. AV is not cheap, but
No.
this is, in my opinion, a fairly good deal
Yeah, I don't know
for
if you,
the size of the building.
Didn't interrupt, sorry.
No, that's.
If you look, we've had some requests for traffic cameras. We added those on the front. You can look when you go by. There's a couple that are there that are on Estero, just so people can log in, and we're going to add more cameras. We already have that taken care of in other places. When we get Newton Park back up, there'll be another traffic camera put back up like before. And so, that included that security cameras for the whole property. It'll help secure the whole neighborhood actually in that area. So it's really,
Can we put a sunset cam? Just curious. Not,
we
is there a
can't.
camera that could-
Matter of
that
fact, we
high
have
of a
one
building
fake.
For a while, you'd be able to see a
We
sunset.
might be able to. We might be able to do that. That's a good
would
point.
for years.
That's a good
Oh,
point.
Off the top of the building
Mhm.
too, that would
Yeah,
be amazing.
We can add that. He put
Wow.
in some money.
Yeah. It's not essential. I just
No, but
didn't know if there was.
that would not be a bad
You
idea.
might be able to see
actually.
it from one of the cameras.
You can see a lot of it. Yeah.
At least for now. Okay.
Yeah.
Is the IT person allowed to leave his post to come to the microphone, or does it mess us up if he does that? Or maybe you
That's
guys
up
could
to
answer.
his-
I don't want to put
his
him on the
boss,
spot.
Nicole
He did for
Brzezin.
the
We can ask
opportunity
Nicole
last week.
Brzezin.
Yeah, I just want to ask, obviously, the obvious question, and I know you guys are looking at this, but
Josh,
we've had some real issues, even prior to Andy and Frankie and prior to Ian, with just streaming these meetings and being able to be available to the public without interruption technologically. And the mayor is much more tech savvy than I am, but can you just share a little bit about what kind of steps are being taken to make sure that our meetings don't get interrupted by technological failures, and that we can communicate with the public on a regular basis, a consistent basis, without all the interruptions? And I know you can't prevent everything, but I assume technology's evolved, and we're taking some pretty aggressive steps to make sure that our sound and everything comes through on a consistent basis.
So yes, there's a fully new system that's replacing what we have here that can handle the actual capacity that you guys are trying to push out constantly. So that was a major issue that I saw when I first got here. I'm trying to fix it, get it back up and running to continue until we do move. But yeah, we're separating the whole entire that network from the main business network, since that was also convoluting a lot of it. So
A lot of
now it's
data.
just going to be
Yeah.
nothing impeding it to go out. So that should definitely help a lot. And also being on a fiber network, you're not having to deal with the coax that you have for currently for Comcast here. So it's going to be much more throughput going out. So it'll definitely be a lot better. Plus with the new sound system, it'll be less static will happen throughout from time to time.
So essentially what he's saying is you're getting a dedicated phone line.
Correct.
For the council
We're gonna have
meetings.
static IP then.
Yes.
Everything is.
Is it through Comcast?
Yes.
That's very helpful. Thank you very
You
much.
got it. Anytime.
What, Josh, as long as you're there, you might be the one to answer. What's a TriCaster, just from my own personal knowledge?
So that is what manages all the cameras in here and all the switching and
That's
streaming
the-
out.
everything
That's
sitting in front.
literally that whole cabinet back there.
Okay.
So yeah, that's the upgraded version.
Thank you.
Be able to push all that out.
Also, I see, I don't know if Josh needs to answer this or the town manager, but we have a separate line for wiring for the second floor, but then we have wiring and accessories for the second floor. Help me with that.
We have another meeting room up there. We're going to put cameras, we're going to put TVs, we're going to put other things in there. So you can actually do committee meetings and other things from that. And we can also have overflow in that room.
Okay.
There needs to be more on that floor.
All right. Thank you.
Microphones, everything.
As you move away from the microphone.
You heard me. Thanks.
I appreciate it.
The only sure thing about technology is it will give you a headache.
That is correct, sir.
Yes.
It doesn't last.
Not
long.
if, but
It's not a matter of
when.
Yes. Any other questions for staff? Is there a motion for resolution 25-86?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Counselor King, seconded by Counselor Safford. Any further discussion? Counselor King,
Aye.
Counselor Safford,
Aye.
Counselor Woodson,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Adderholt.
Aye.
I'm an aye as well. That motion carries unanimously. Next is resolution 25-82. It's a resolution of the Town Council of the Town of Fort Myers Beach, Florida, ratifying the authorization of STA number 7 in the amount of $24,000 with DRMP Inc. for value engineering under RFQ-22-25-AD for Bay Oaks Recreational Campus Redevelopment Project, which when combined with previous STA number 5 for $55,650 and STA number 6 for $6,650 for the same project total of $86,300 and providing for an effective date.
Jeff Hauge, Community Services Director. So you had previously we had to reject, excuse me, the bid for the redevelopment again. It was too much for our budget. So we ended up, actually you all ended up rejecting the bids for that. And then we were going a different direction as far as how we're building it. Because the costs have risen, we're going to do a valued engineering, which means the cost will be a little lower instead of, having real expensive things. You can do it under a smaller budget. So this is just for the redesign from DRMP to incorporate our changes. A smaller parking lot, those kind of things.
And what is the goal, Jeff? Is this RFP gone out yet? When is it going to go out? When is that going to close? When could we start to see
This
some
week,
action happen?
This week, we're going to have it at least advertised so we can go out.
And what's the timeline for that RFP as to when it closes?
Yeah, 30 days.
30 days.
Yep, 30 days. And then hopefully we can start right away. And DRMP has said if we get it out even by mid-April, they can get the job done.
Job done when? Because there's a tight deadline. for
August
match.
31st.
About the deadline.
Okay. Thank you.
August 31st.
That's pretty aggressive.
Yeah,
Mhm.
we're gonna do.
Simple.
It's gonna do. Yeah, it's more of a simplified plan than it was before. We're not doing the baseball field. We're just gonna do grass. There won't be a building there, obviously, right now because we had to take that out because of the funding. There'll be a walking path that probably be crushed shell or something like that. So it's a lower budgeted item.
But there's also more pickleball courts and that type of thing too, right?
Potentially, yeah. We're gonna go from 4 to possibly 6.
Okay.
So to that point, Jeff and Counselor Woodson, your comments would be welcome too on this. Where are we in the aggregate. So the community center is now off the table. Is that right?
I mean, it's not off the table. We haven't completely,
at least
phased.
temporarily?
Yeah, it'll be phase 2 or 3.
So in essence, you're going to redo the whole campus. Do you want to just, for folks who don't sit on board camp, just give us a thumbnail sketch of what it might look like? Is it going to look like sort of like what it looked like before Ian, or how would you how would you describe it?
The initial plans had a new softball field back there. The need just isn't there. The need is actually for green space on the island. So we decided to do more of a multi-purpose field.
And wasn't that a requirement of the grant?
Multi-purpose field, yes.
Multi-purpose
Yes,
field.
yes. Yeah, which we could have done with the softball field. You can play soccer on it, that kind of thing. But we figured out maybe this with some walking trails, maybe some picnic area, or we'll have picnic areas. Pickleball will be in there, but it'll be just a nice area where if you want to go kick around a soccer ball, you certainly can. If we need to line it for something, for an event, we certainly could too. If there was soccer, lacrosse, the area is big enough to do 2 full-size soccer fields if we needed to. That's kind of the placeholder, as you can imagine what it looks like.
What is the name of that park, Jeff, that's up in Tampa, that's along the boardwalk there? If people want to go look at an idea of kind of what it looked, kind of a concept of it.
Is it Riverwalk?
It's on the Riverwalk. Yeah, it's the river. I don't know if it's called Riverwalk Park, but
very similar.
It's a linear.
Yeah, just a place where people can go hang out. We can have concerts down there too. That'd be nice to be down there, a big open area. So we just want to get it back to green space and get this project finally complete.
Well, and we took out the amphitheater and just thought we can set up stages if, we can set it up however we want to for any kind of concerts, that type of thing. Right now with the new town hall coming in and just understanding how we'll use all of that extra space. There's meeting rooms in the town hall for people to come in, nonprofits to come in. So the immediate need and funding, of course, because we don't have the funding for an administrative building, but the immediate need was like, let's take a look at what we're doing now with our new town hall, how we can utilize that. Maybe we don't need an administrative building. Maybe we need some other kind of thing as time goes on, and we'll feel that out and also look for more funding because we don't have it.
Correct. That's exactly what we want to do. We want to get this done with the multi-purpose park and some walking trails.
Right.
And then later down the line, maybe we can apply for the grant again and do something else. Or maybe there's a loan in the future that we could do a building or something.
If I could point out, just Saturday with the parade and they pulled into somebody's lot, if that sells and somebody builds there, the lots and the open space is going to be less and less. And this will provide that for destinations, for events and things of that type of thing. So we see it as a win-win. I mean, I've looked at that park. You and I have been up there in Tampa, and it's amazing concept, and it can fill a lot of needs, an open space.
That all makes perfect sense. I just didn't know. So that's helpful. And at some point, maybe if I don't know, will there be renderings at some point?
Yeah, we'll have them. We just had to get this.
That's okay.
Yes. Money to.
But yeah, when those renderings come, it'd be great to do maybe a presentation so folks can have a better sense of what the vision is, at least short term. That'd be great.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, that's great.
We actually have board cab on Wednesday, so I'll probably.
No, a week from
Wednesday, 26th.
Okay. All good. Thank you.
Any other questions? If not, is there a motion for resolution 25-82?
So moved.
Motion by Councilor Woodson. I'll second. Any further discussion? Councilor Woodson?
Aye.
I'm an aye. Vice Mayor Hall?
Aye.
Councilor King?
Aye.
And Councilor Safford?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Next is item F, resolution 25-85. This is a resolution of the Town Council of the Town of Fort Myers Beach, Florida, ratifying action of the town taken December 19th, 2024 under the emergency procurement policy to contract with Andrews Site Work LLC to take emergency protective measures to maintain potable water pressure by installing a gate valve at the South Booster Station for a not to exceed amount of $129,745 and providing for an effective date. Joe?
So this was a repair, or I should say an improvement that was necessary for the reasons that you had just stated. It will be funded from the water fund and possibly from insurance proceeds. We may have some insurance proceeds remaining that were given to the town for the water distribution system. So it's possible that there may be some of that remaining that we could apply towards this cost. But it was something that was necessary and was able to be done by Andrew Site Work while they were here. And so that is why it was approved at the time as an emergency. And now we're coming to the town council for ratification.
Questions for Joe? All right. Is there a motion? Which one are we gonna get?
2585.
25.
So moved.
Motion by Counselor King,
Second.
second by Counselor Woodson. Any further discussion? Counselor King,
Aye.
Counselor Woodson,
Aye.
Counselor Safford,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Adderholt.
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well. That motion carries unanimously. Next is item G. This is a resolution 25-89, a resolution of the Town Council of the Town of Fort Myers Beach, Florida, ratifying actions of the town taken January 10th, 2025 and January 27th, 2025 under the emergency procurement policy to approve the purchase orders with Kirkwood Electric for electrical work related to the renovation of the new town hall, the combined total of which is $76,662, and providing for an effective date. Joe?
This is similar to the soft trim resolution where there were two phases of electrical work done by Kirkwood on the new town hall. And since the two ended up being more than $75,000, it's necessary to bring it to you, to town council, to ratify the purchase.
Questions for Joe?
Funding?
This is part of the new town hall funding plan that was proposed originally. So this would be coming from insurance proceeds for the building.
Thank you, Joe.
Any other questions? Is there a motion for resolution 25-89?
So moved.
Motion by Counselor Woodson.
Second.
Seconded by Counselor Safford. Any further discussion? Counselor Woodson,
Aye.
Counselor Safford.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Adderholt.
Aye.
Counselor King.
Aye.
I'm an aye as well. That motion carries unanimously. Last is item J. It's resolution 25-92. This is a resolution of the Town Council of the Town of Fort Myers Beach, Florida, authorizing approval of the amendment number 3 to the agreement with Jacobs Project Management Company and providing for an effective date. Frankie?
So this is just a ongoing services contract that we have with Jacobs, an adjusted price of roughly $53,000 that'll be added to the current contract. It takes up added staff that we've had, whether they be permit tech, in this case, supplied us a new floodplain manager in-house, ongoing, and just kind of keeping that contract on track to where it was when we initially signed it. So it's additional funds, and it will be coming out of the general fund. To answer any questions you have regarding Jacobs, we do have John Dahmer here.
So Jacobs comes out of the general fund, not out of the building
This
fund?
particular part does, yes. The permit techs can go into the building fund.
Correct.
But anything for planning and zoning rather, would have to come out of the general fund.
You want to come up, just kind of give everybody that doesn't know who you are, and just give a quick overview, if you would, John, about what it is your firm is providing for us, and when you kind of came on to the town.
Good morning, Mayor and Council. Happy St. Patrick's Day. My name is John Dolmer. I am the project manager for Jacobs Engineering for the Building Department Services. So currently, we are providing the building official, 3 building inspectors, floodplain manager, and 3 permit technicians. And as we have evolved, I think we started a little over a year ago. We started talking about 3 years ago.
Almost right after the hurricane.
Almost right after the hurricane. And those services have kind of evolved and developed since then. So right now what's happened is we also have projects in Bonita Springs. And I know that we try to look for a little synergy with some of the building inspectors. So that way the right inspector goes to the right inspection as quickly as possible. And we have also kind of worked with trying to smooth out some of the permit intake that we've had throughout the year. So,
You got any questions for John? Vice Mayor?
Good morning, John. First of all, thank you for your efforts. You've made our life here on Fort Myers Beach easier. When you first came on, one of the things I challenged you on was putting forth some metrics so people can visually see the dramatic change and the elimination of significant backlog in the permitting process prior to your arrival. And clearly, I think I could speak for my colleagues, just the amount of calls and complaints that we get is diminished greatly. And we're thankful for that. Thankful for that because it means the island's progressing nicely as well. But it seems it's all anecdotal. And even though it's real, I wonder because a lot of communities are kind of compete with each other and they try to get a sense of how we're doing versus how someone else is doing. And plus, there's still a lot of legacy anecdotal information about we're way behind just because that's the way it was and people haven't realized the changes that have been made. Is there a way for you to metric how far permits are, how quickly they're going through the process, at least in a general sense, and maybe have a dashboard so we can sort of see some numbers? It's almost like an opportunity to tell your story because it's a pretty good story.
Sir. So what you would have is the data exists. It's all in your permit tracking software. Every permit that gets submitted versus every date that those permits are approved. So it would really just be a matter of pulling that data out of that system. And I'm not exactly sure exactly what the capabilities are for iWork in a public dashboard, but those things are always something that can be done. It's just a matter of what's available and what needs to be done to pull it out and make it, available on your website.
I don't want to put Frankie on the spot, but in a meeting we had last week, he told me that the average wait time for a permit is 2.5 weeks, average wait time. Does that sound right to you?
It does sound about right, and it fluctuates some. Depends on the permit. Obviously, larger
Yeah,
commercial permits
absolutely.
are not going to process as quickly as a single family, but 2.5 weeks is give or take.
But that's a pretty impressive number. And if we could document that to some extent, and I know our software is not maybe that friendly to do that, I think it'd be great to tell that story because I think if you stop someone on the island and ask them how long they think a permit takes, I don't think all the changes that have been made have caught up with the Coconut Telegraph necessarily.
And they might not say 2.5 weeks.
Right.
Well, and I think there's some discrepancy. I had a conversation with a resident on one of the side streets that they have a community dock, and they're like, it took an hour or it took a year and a half to get the permits. And before I could even say anything, she goes, it wasn't the town, the DEP, because anything in the water has to have DEP. So the holdup was DEP, but there's some misunderstanding out there that when someone says it's been a year and a half, that's not necessarily all the information. It's not just the town's portion of it. It's FDEP that was taking forever, not the town.
As an island, you don't have control over all the permits. That's true. Almost every single permit's going to have an additional layer, either through the county or the state.
Or the fire
feds,
department.
Or the fire department. Yes, sir.
And to John's, of course, we work very close to each other or with each other, and it's documentation. So when you're applying for a permit, you talk to that tech. Our techs are very well trained. John is here on a weekly basis going through nuances, not only with our regular town techs, but with ones they're providing through Jacobs, which we always treat them, everybody as a family anyway. But always the new things coming up, any type of problems that he's seeing on other areas. So they're constantly being educated on a weekly basis. But it comes back to documentation. They know what to say on the phone. They know what to ask for. It's what they get in return determines how long that sits in review, how long that sits maybe in a desk where it doesn't need to be because it's missing a key piece of information. We're constantly talking about ways to mitigate that. Again, iWorks is not the greatest vessel to use for permitting, but it's what we have. It's what we had before Andy and I got here. It works. And we can prove it works.
Frankie, since you have the mic and John has the mic, if you were to give advice to the average person applying for a permit today, what's the most common mistake that somebody makes today and that you'd advise them to say, if I could just talk to them before they hit that send button? What do you see out there?
I would just say try to be answer the questions that the permit tech asks as clear as possible. If they're asking, we have one in front of us today, an owner builder wanted to do some electrical work. Well, they submitted all the information correctly. They signed all the affidavits. They're from out of state. But when it comes right down to it, that wasn't the question that they're asking. He put on his permit form that he wanted to do overhead electrical work. Well, you can't do overhead electrical work without being a licensed Florida contractor. Come to find out, all they were looking for at the bottom line was to put up an electrical tree to have that. So these are additional questions that they didn't ask, and we can't tell them unless we know. Another thing to John's with our floodplain manager that we have on staff now, Kelly, These are questions that go back from Ian, but every storm subsequent since then, there's been new demands, new types of ways of dealing with cost forms, how to mitigate future forms and future costs that arise versus a payout, and permitted work. So all those three components have to fit into that module somehow. And sometimes people don't like hearing what they need to hear, but that's the world that we're kind of living in.
And I think that's the important thing to point out in a bigger spectrum is it went from everybody having the same complaint to now you have some one-offs. And when I say, now every once in a while we'll get an email. I try to look into them as much as I can because I know iWorks is not the easiest thing, especially if you don't know what you're looking for or you've never been through it and you want to be an owner builder. What I'm seeing now of the small one-offs, and there's only a few that have come through, have been people that had damage from Ian that went through one floodplain manager that was here at the time with the information we had at the time of what we had to do or not do. And now we have a different floodplain manager and they're trying to go through the same process for Milton. And it's now a little bit different because it's a different floodplain manager, what they're being asked for. And it's not because the requirements are different. It's because we've been given information that we have to require more information than maybe what we did at Ian.
Correct. And it's not so much personalities do come into play to a certain extent, but for most of the differences comes into the clarity that's been provided since Ian. Right after Ian, we didn't know what we know now. We've been visited by FEMA enough where they provided some clarity in areas that were not as clear before, at least where we thought we had options, we don't have options. And in that case, those items or what's required for documentation, what's required for approvals, what the town is required to keep in terms of documentation is a little bit different than what it was before. So those changes have evolved. They're not night and day, but they are a little bit different.
And again, these are one-offs. This isn't a mass thing. And one that comes to mind was they had an issue with an accessory dwelling unit that was inside the home that after Ian was permitted based on information that came from Lee County, because we still have to play with Lee County as far as some of the information. And now it's kind of it's been held up for months because the information in Lee County doesn't necessarily match what's there. And it gets very convoluted. So what kind of information what's the best? And this one that I'm referring to, it's gone back and forth. We've directed them to the county. The county's directed them back to us, and they're kind of stuck in limbo when they just need a definitive answer. Tell us what we need to give you, and they can't seem to get it.
Correct. Now that's kind of, as you said, a standalone item. So if you're really looking as a general permitting question, I'm coming in, I bought a house that was damaged during Ian, I'm coming in for permits. If you don't know the answer, come in and ask the questions, because one of the worst delays is if you leave an item blank or if you guess, and if you guess wrong, because now all of a sudden you get a comment that comes back that you have to respond to. If you take a little bit of extra time, come in, make a phone call, send an email saying, I'm looking at item 4 on this page 2. What am I looking for? This is a picture of my house. How do I describe that in terms of this permit application?
John, I'm going to stop you right there because there was a time when times were much more difficult that people shouldn't call. They should
Correct.
email, they should come in versus email. What is the priority in terms of what's the best way to reach out with questions to the town of Fort Myers Beach?
Obviously, if you come in the door, there's usually someone up at the front that can help you walk through or at least find the right answers for permits. But phone calls or emails also work as well. There's probably dozens of all 3 of those examples every day.
So you can get a human now when you call?
God willing, unless you've got 15 people that have called right before you, yes.
Yeah. But you just leave a voicemail, somebody will call you back.
Correct.
But what's the preference? Do you prefer people come in? Do you prefer them send an email? Do you,
If someone really has a question on the overall application itself, it's probably best to come in. If you have a specific question on a specific portion of the application, those might be best for either a phone call or an email. But if you need someone to walk through a lot of pieces of information or a lot of questions that you have, that might be easier in person, just like anything else. If it's a more targeted or more focused question, that's probably appropriate for a quick email. Just send it to the permitting office and say, what do you do on page 2, question 3?
you still encourage people to look at the frequently asked question section?
Obviously, yes. And I think
That
we're
answers
up
a lot
to,
of questions, doesn't it?
we're up to about 6 people that have looked at it so far. So we're making progress.
Yeah, and to that point, the owner builder, if you're out there as an owner builder, and regardless of what you're doing, with the exception of just changing doorknobs on your house, which you wouldn't need a permit for, we have Gisela up front. We had Ashley. Ashley's moved on, but Gisela, if she can't find an answer for you, we have a whole trailer of people back here that can. And that's kind of the way they work. They don't assume that they know everything. They don't go on Google and try to look up your answer. We have that wealth of knowledge sitting back in our community development trailer. And those are the people that we rely on every day. So regardless of what your question is, we will find an answer and we will find a solution.
I tell you, Frankie, you sent me back there the other day. With your permission, I went back there and to help an elderly person on the island who had some fraud issues with their contractor, and the staff back there was excellent. I mean, they're just very helpful, and so I mean, it's a tremendous turnaround and a credit to the town and to you, John, and your team. And I'll put you on the spot, and it's very awkward because I know you represent Bonita Springs, but is Fort Myers Beach one of the quickest places to get a permit in this region?
Based on where you were, you are right where you need to be.
That's such a diplomat.
Well played. I think things are coming along perfectly. When I come out now, it's more for maintenance and it's more for just checking to make sure something hasn't come up. Early on, it was, what's the issue today? How do we tackle the big elephant type questions? Those bigger issues don't exist right now.
Well, thank you for that.
Yes, sir.
Well,
Thank you.
well, while we have you up here, is there anything from staffs? I mean, we've constantly said anything you need when it comes to building, you've had unanimous consent to go ahead. Is there anything that we can do with John's firm to make it even more efficient than what we have now? Whether it be more permit techs, whether it be, I don't know if you can get a second floodplain, not a second floodplain, but a building official to help. I know Joe's pretty heavily busy. So is there anything that we can do to encourage you or empower you to be able to use their services if you have the manpower to do it, to make it more efficient?
I guess my answer would be always. And a good, I think permit tech wise, we are there. We're at where we need to be. We have just the right mix of people. We're handling that mix. With the building official, our biggest thing is he's also certified inspector in almost every category. So my ask would be inspectors. And that's kind of a conversation that John and I have on a regular basis. They just don't grow on trees. So as soon as you can find them and you kind of get them in the hold, he already knows just to kind of keep on, it's like that big monster in Rocky Horror Picture Show. Just feed me Seymour, because we just can't get enough.
That's not
our
Rocky
building
Horror
official.
Picture Show.
No, big,
Just keep moving.
I digress. Anyway, our building official really needs to be in the office where we can pick his brain, his 40 years of knowledge and whatnot, and also help out in the field. But between the two communities, we are kind of hand tied a bit.
And if that's the direction, we can have conversations to see what fits, because it's not just inspectors, it's inspectors with which type of license,
Correct.
what matches up with what you
And
need.
that's the key.
So there's no sense in hiring inspectors that don't provide a service.
Correct.
Speaking of Little Shop of Horrors,
There you go. Thank you, sir.
back before we brought Jacobs on board and we were still in Diamond Head, I thought we'd given direction to do something about iWorks, to look into replacing them.
And
or-
we have. It's just taken us a while to find the right fit. We had to have dominoes fall into place. So to answer your question, we had to make sure the clerk had this updated software that the town clerk needed. And then from there, we had to go find the HR piece to make sure that our HR was working. Most of all, we had to make sure that finance was moving the way that Joe wanted to. And that's the cornerstone piece. That just fell into place a little while ago. We have a couple of really nice choices that we'd like to go down and start looking. Between Judith and myself, we've started interviewing, and we've had a few demonstrations now on different types of software. But before we commit, we want to make sure it's a fit that works for us, not just today, but going into the future as well. That's the one thing I don't think iWorks really provided. It plateaued, and you could have seen it was going to plateau right from the get-go.
Yeah, it's not customizable, and
Correct.
If you've never had to do a permit before, it's very cumbersome, and it's not. But at the time that we were talking about that, John, it was also advised, I think, by John, that you want to kind of pump the brakes because of where we were at the time, as far as the amount of permits that were coming in and not knowing what we didn't know. So you didn't want to put another layer of uncertainty on top of it.
But we have kept moving.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a huge deal. Changing from
Yes.
one permit software to another system isn't just making the decision. It's getting all of your existing historical data placed into a new data, customizing that new program. Just shooting from the hip, you're probably going to want to have someone that devotes at least half their time to maintaining whatever system it is. Just because all of these are a handful, none of them out of the box match your system, but they're not intended to. They're intended to be customized. Who does that customization? Who maintains it? Where is it maintained? All of those questions come into play at that point.
Would you say it's safe to say that, I mean, if you are out there and you're going to be hiring someone to build your home or commercial building or whatever, it's very important to get someone that knows what they're doing. I mean, we still have,
Oh, heavens, yes.
yeah, we still have people who get misinformation that, you know, the town is holding up something when it's hasn't been submitted, or it all falls usually back on the contractor themselves. And there are a plethora of good contractors out there that know the system, know who they need to talk to, and make it very efficient. So if you need more inspectors, I'm all on board to say, do it. If you can provide them and that will help make it more efficient, I'm all for it.
Well, with that, we'll just have
Absolutely.
a couple conversations.
Sure.
We'll see what comes out of it. And
Yeah,
whatever
I mean,
comes out
some
of that,
people
we'll
have to wait a week to get an inspection, which just holds everything up for them.
So most inspections are done pretty much that next day. They don't tend to extend.
Except for
even
the outbound ones and we get the emails on.
if they're scheduled, they shouldn't be rolled over for more than a day or so. If it's 2 days, it's basically because it's March, and spring break, and name another planetary alignment, whatever. But normally speaking, they're done within 24 hours.
Okay.
If you hear of something that extends, or somebody hasn't shown up, or there's been an issue where it's gone longer than a couple of days, those are the type of issues I would like to know, because
Okay.
those are the things we're looking to make sure don't happen.
Okay.
And if there's not a reason, or if there's not something that's on the contractor side, we need to make sure our side is cleaned up.
And I can attest to that too, Karen, that there's been a few cases, at least 4 in the last 3 months that I know of, where people they've gone through the portal to request that inspection, but haven't gone all the way to the final step. So they think that they're there, they think that they scheduled it, and nothing happened.
Okay.
So, make sure that you're following that bouncing ball all the way to the end in the portal. And again, it's not the greatest tool in the world to use. It's the only tool we have right now. And if there's ever a question, you can call up front and schedule with Gisela as well.
So with that, based on what you just said, if there's a multi-step process or you don't go all the way to the end, do they get a confirmation email that they've scheduled it, or does any of that happen?
They do on the back end if they've finished everything.
So if you didn't get a confirmation
get-
email saying that you have a
Correct.
scheduled time and here's what
Correct.
time it is,
Yep.
you didn't go all the way through the
That
process.
is correct.
Good to know.
Because we've all done it. You think you
Mhm.
filled
Oh,
something
yes.
out, and you're like, yeah, I'm good. And then you're like 3 weeks later, why haven't I heard from anybody?
It never ends.
All right, any other questions for John?
No, thank you.
Thanks, John.
Awesome, thanks.
All right. Any further discussion? If not, is there a motion for resolution 25-92?
So moved.
I will second. Motion by Counselor King, second by Mayor Allers. Any further discussion? Counselor King?
Aye.
I'm an aye. Vice Mayor?
Aye.
Counselor Wilson?
Aye.
And Counselor Safford?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimous. Final public comment.
I think Butch was here for that. Being addressed by John.
John's handling.
I believe so.
Any other public comment? Okay, we'll close public comment. Town manager items.
Thank you, Mayor. Probably the biggest thing, elephant in the room, is going to be town hall. Got a lot of things working all at the same time. Obviously, continue with the work with salt trim, continue with the work with the fire alarm company. We're trying to get all that permit approved through the fire department. So we've got a rejection letter. So I'm working through that this week. Should hopefully have that solved in the next couple of days. Just it's just a process. We're working, still have to close up the wall. Well, to finish closing up the walls, we're really close. The council's desk should arrive this week. So we're really pushing forward. So hopefully, fingers crossed, we get the dais. It's actually, when we ordered, they refer to it as a council desk or commission desk. But yes, the dais. We've got the stage ready. We're just so close. We probably could tie up a lot of loose ends in 2 weeks if we can just get the fire alarm system wired. That's the key, getting it wired. So hopefully this week, Nicole and staff, we're going to be working on that very, very hard get that done, working on the parking lot, getting that done. Frankie's working with that on the storm, make sure we get the stormwater and storm drainage done so we can progress with that and get all of our permits and that, everything we need to get for that, to get that accomplished. The other thing is we are working with Comcast and probably should be to a point where we're going to have FMB TV set up. So we will have the ability to go live with things, to go to show videos. The one thing that they ask is that you do put programming with it, so many hours a day. So we'll have to come up with a plan for replaying our committee meetings, replaying our council meetings, our LPA, things of that nature. That will just be content that will always, so people will just on there, if they're a Comcast customer, they can go to that channel and look at all of our stuff.
So that'll be like a community access channel.
That'll be exactly the
Just
same
like
thing.
Lee County
They
has?
can submit that people can, nonprofits and certain people can submit to us to put things on there. I think there's limitations on advertising, so we can't really do that kind of thing. But we can announce certain things, not birthdays and anniversaries and stuff like that,
So we'll have
births and all
we
that.
will have a 24/7.
Yes, sir.
community
And,
access
and
channel
one of you will be the voice of that. I know you've asked, so just hang on.
This is the first I've heard of it.
No, but we will. It'll be just like any other. They by law they have to provide those.
Yeah, I remember.
And so
Yeah,
we
that's-
have
I think
one.
it's excellent.
And it's just never been utilized. And I've asked Nicole, and she's been working diligently to get that ready and set up. And we will probably move away from the YouTube stuff because everything will go there and it'll continually be shown. There'll be some ways to get to that on our website. So if people don't have Comcast or they have a satellite or YouTube or something, they can do that. But we'll work with everybody on that. We'll figure all those things out.
I see a resurrection of the vice mayor's meet the staff and the mayor
Meet
walking
the
around.
staff. Key questions for key staff.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I think
When that comes in my script, I'll be sure to read it correctly.
each one of you needs to come up with, the mayor's minute, the vice mayor's key questions with key staff, and each one of you can have a 5 or 30-minute
Scott's taco
program.
recipes.
Yeah.
It could be
Karen's corner.
cooking tacos with Scott. I mean, it could be any kind of thing. But I really think it's a good way to communicate, a good way for people to see and figure out. And of course, I'm sure you can stream it on your computer if you have an account here and you're somewhere else and that type of thing. So it's really going to be a unique thing. It's going to, we'll have to hire someone for makeup because all the lighting and things like, I'm kidding, John. We're not going to do that. Y'all all
No
look
makeup.
great naturally. You look wonderful.
On John Monday.
Yeah,
He's a face for radio.
I didn't say that.
Oh,
I didn't say
like
that.
I'd never heard that one before. I used to say it.
So the town manager process is moving along. We had, after we did some background checks and things, we kind of needed to refocus to try to get some more candidates. So I think Talisa's reached out to you on dates. I don't have that date. It seemed like
Anything missing in the process?
anything missing. Not that I know of at this point.
So anyone out there that may not know, the 25th special meeting has been canceled. Or
That is correct. Yeah. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It is. Yeah. Just be moved to April and a date to be determined. Talisa's out today with an illness. So we'll get that. And Jeff is going to give an update on the Bay Oaks Recreation Center.
Yeah, so we're moving forward. We get the flooring. They're going to come pour it first or second week in April. It should take 2 or 3 weeks. And that's kind of the final step with that. They ordered the package units for the air handlers. Those are going to be coming in within a week or two. So anybody watching, we might have to shut down pickleball for a couple of days because there'll be heavy machinery back there.
Oh, no.
Yes. So
Oh, no.
I know that's one of the bigger issues. But we're going to do all epoxy flooring.
Looks nice.
Yeah, it'll be really nice. And they're actually going to go up the wall about 6 inches. So if we have minor flooding, you won't get the cracks, water going through the cracks, or it'll really hold and be able to clean up real nice. So the whole rec center will be epoxy. So
One of the things
getting there. They're thinking by, I'm sorry.
No, I'm sorry.
They're thinking about mid-May will probably be open.
So we're pushing. Have a question there.
I just, Frankie, just in a general sense, after our public comment this morning, did you have anything you wanted to opine about 8211 Estero Boulevard?
Yes, I do.
Please.
As of this morning, all permits were vacated by the building official. They've been in talks with Joe because the building was a cinder block building. They tried to push their case that it could be structurally sound, it could be rebuilt. He gave them time to present to him active plan to move forward. That did not happen in the allowed time. So he vacated their permit. They will not be allowed to come in to rebuild that building. That building will have to be demolished. And it wasn't the red tag process. It was taken out. We'll put it back in the red tag process. And if we can speed it up by anything, according to the law that we're allowed to do, we're going to make sure that happens.
So just to be clear, so it's about to be red tagged again?
It would go back into the system for red tag, but it doesn't have.
Let me ask the attorney, since it was basically told, I mean, can it just pick back up and go and not just,
No,
I mean,
I think it
did
was
we,
eliminated because of the fact the permit was issued in July.
did we,
of
did we
2024.
notice the property owner that it was taken off or did we just leave it hanging?
There
We
was
need
a
to know that.
conversation that there was a conversation. I don't believe it was hanging. I believe it was taken off of the process
Okay.
when they were permitted to come in and try to find a solution. So we would have to revisit that again. But at least knowing that they cannot come back in and try this again, that was it. And the building is going to come down at some date, hopefully very
Nancy,
soon.
is there a way to prevent this circumventing or this loophole process? I mean, if you get red tagged and we know people are doing it, they're coming in and they're getting a permit and they're going to squat on that permit and not do anything until that permit expires. Which is there anything that we can do to keep that from happening?
Depending on the extent of damage or repair that's being done, I mean, it's possible within the discretion of the building official to put some conditions on it, perhaps a phasing, that if, depending on the size of what needs to be done, you know, you should have this much done by this time to make sure that that process goes forward. It's been kind of difficult because there's a huge goal to try to get people to come into compliance voluntarily instead of coming down and just basically demolishing everybody's house. But you do have the holdouts that just keep pushing it and pushing it and pushing it. I just wanted to add another comment to Frankie saying that it's going to be put back into the demolition process. So the way that process works is the building official goes out. He has a checklist based on your code as to what things at a minimum must be in working order. And then he makes a determination if any of those things are missing, then the building is viewed as being unsafe. There's a 30-day appeal period, which runs concurrently with a 60-day period to vacate. So that's the process. Technically, it should move very quickly. However, individuals have contacted the building official once they get red tagged. And in a lot of cases, they've actually taken down the building themselves. But then again, there are some that are kind of working the process as well.
I mean, when does it, you know, some of these buildings, we all know there's a handful that we can all think of off the top of our head. When does it become a life safety issue that, you know, putting up a orange snow fence around it is not something that's going to keep people out of that property? Is there anything we can do from that aspect?
Rats, yeah.
If just for instance, you've been red tagged, you wait till the 30th day, you come in, you get your building permit, and now you've got your your demolition permit, and now you've got it for 6 months. Is there anything we can enact policy-wise to ensure that in order to get that permit, you have to show that you're going to secure the property? Because people are getting a permit and they're not securing the property, or they're demoing a huge property with no fence around it, which drives me nuts every time I go by it. And somebody's going to get hurt eventually.
So concurrent with the demolition process, your code also has a property maintenance section, which basically goes through the same code enforcement process. And those two could actually travel together. Going into the code enforcement, the special magistrate could order the immediate abatement, i.e. the demolition of properties that are so unsafe because of the fact that they haven't been maintained. Putting up a fence to try to secure it could be viewed as part of trying to maintain it and keeping it safe. So that is another process that could be invoked at the same time, and the two can travel together. The other thing that we've heard on some of the delays has been that you can't take our building down because we're waiting on the insurance adjuster to come and we need photographs. And I really think that town staff has been trying to work with these individuals that find themselves in that situation. However, there is a point where you can tell that some of it is just trying to delay. Taking a building down is not cheap. And so maybe, the property owner doesn't have the money. Yes, the town can come in and demolish the property after the completion of the process. But then again, that's money out of your budget. So from a policy perspective, it might be better to have that property owner take it down, because even though we have the means to recover those monies, getting your money back is a lot more difficult.
Yeah, and to that point, the first 58 houses or 48 houses that we had initially red tagged, almost 90% of those came into compliance on their own. There's a huge, staggering number of people that have actually, okay, it's our property, we'll take care of it. There's a few of them that have fought us, trying to find loopholes and stretch it as long as they can. And when I say fought us, it's not like butting heads. They knew what they could do under the law, and they did that. And now you have to let the process play out. And then we have a few that are just moving along the chain to either magistrate or to.
And this goes back to my thing when John was here about the resources. Do we have enough code enforcement resources to be able? I don't disagree that when you start the process of the red tagging, 90% of the people come into compliance. That's what you're hoping for, right? You're always going to have that few that are going to be bad actors. Right. But to me, it seems that the problem is we're not doing enough of them. You said 48. How many past that have we done?
I think currently on our list, we have another 15 properties that are,
again,
borderline, more marginal, moving along through either the lane search process or still with the building official going down his checklist, making sure that he's secure in his findings.
Because our goal is to get people ultimately to come into compliance, do we have enough resources to be able to do it? I don't know that we do. I'm asking, do we have enough code enforcement? Do you need us to get more code enforcement? Can we find more code enforcement to be able to do specific?
And that is the issue. So a lot of times what we do is our rangers are beach to bay. That was the whole reason to make them the rangers in with their new mission. So they've been helping code enforcement, looking for stuff. We just had another set of eyes go out and look for stuff recently. I think that to have another two bodies, another two code enforcement officers that could work that 7 day a week. Currently, we have people staffed through Saturday, but trying to find that Sunday person is just not conducive with the three that we actually have on staff. I think that would be awesome because we'd be able to have boots on the ground, always dealing with this.
So basically, yes. I'll get with John and see if we can't get a couple more people just to kind of attack some stuff, because
and to rotate it for
I
7 days a week, because everybody knows code is not here on Sunday.
Do the code.
So that's when
They
all
didn't,
kinds
they
of
do
things.
now.
Well, they do anyway. I mean, that's when all the yahoos take effect.
Well,
so.
I spent 5 hours out yesterday going through the entire town myself with Tracy and Nicole, writing addresses, taking pictures, doing everything we need to do. And so we're going through that process now. I mean, yes, it can be done, and it's a lot easier to do on a Saturday morning or Sunday morning than during the week, because it's a little less traffic. So yes, we'll ramp that up and see if we can't get some more help in the code. I believe that enforcement. Now compliance is where we were. Now I think we're in that enforcement phase. We got to push that.
Well, my point is if they haven't been started in the process, whether it's red tagging, whatever it is, whether the grass hasn't been mowed, whether you can still see the refrigerator wide open with food still in it in their house. If they haven't been notified that they're not in compliance, that's the issue, right?
Correct.
And if we don't have enough people to do that, we need to get enough people, in my opinion, we need to get the people to do that. That's a top priority for people. You can see how we've evolved since Ian, and there's been enough time. People need to know. Some people have just left their houses and have forgotten about it.
Yeah.
And
correct.
we haven't done what we can do, I think, to be as efficient as possible, to be able to get them to be aware that they're not in compliance so that we can get to that 90% rate on the island. Then we'll deal with the 10%, how we have to deal with the 10%.
So I have a question. So this 6-month time frame on getting a demolition permit and everything is 6 months a state statute? Can we shorten that to 30 days, 60 days? What can we do to shorten that up so that's not just a, oh, now I got more time?
I don't think it's I don't think it's a state statute, is it, Nancy, for time allotted? Like the 6 months? Is that our ordinance?
I'm not sure where the 6 months, I need a framework as to where that.
The building
numbers-
permit or
Oh,
anything
the
you get.
expiration of
Yes.
it.
Expiration.
Um,
Can it expire in 30 days? Can it expire in 60
I think-
days so that we make people get moving on this?
Like a building permit, you get the 6 months because, I mean, obviously
Right, you have to
that
build.
makes perfect sense.
I'm talking more about the demo.
Correct.
Well, you know what's going to happen with the bad actors. They're going to find a way around it. What they're going to do is you change it to 30 days. They're going to they're going to get a contract with someone at that 30-day mark, and then they're either not going to pay a deposit or they're not going to, and they're going to stall it through the contractor side.
Well, then we
So
can
it has to
take
go
down.
further than just coming in with a contract saying, I have a demolition contract, and then a year from now, they're still like, we have a demolition. And the contractor is just going to say, they haven't paid me to come do the work. I'm not going to do the
Yep.
work until I get the money.
Yeah, I'm willing to work with Frankie and try to come up with some solutions. I didn't really know that game was being played.
That's what we
because
just did with the
once we-
fresh catch property. We were ready to go and he came and got a
Yeah,
permit and we've been
because
allowing
once-
permit. And that's the one we're talking about, bottom line.
Yeah.
I'm ready to take it down. You just have to give me the go ahead.
Okay, we'll talk about
Oh,
it.
can we vote on that?
I think it's a legal thing.
It's a legal question. And taking it down has the costs. I don't know, Frankie.
We
if
budgeted,
you
we're
have
ready
some-
to do that.
Okay.
And that's the one we're going to put a lien on because it's just the way it is. If
I
people don't
just
pay
need
their
to make
taxes,
sure
it
that
just goes.
we're protected as a town
Correct.
with the authority to move forward. Because if once we take a building down, it's irreparable harm and we'll end up in court. So I've got to make sure that everything is correct. Having a magistrate order that the building comes down is preferable because that is a court order to take the building down.
Good. That's what we need.
Anything else, Andy?
I'll be leaving this afternoon to travel to Tallahassee for a couple of days. So Mayor will be up there with me and we're knocking on doors again.
Money,
Well,
money, money,
let's
money.
cover that real quick
Yes.
because there has been a report out there or a certain reporter that's asking that we've never discussed this, that
Correct.
council is aware that Andy and I are going to do these things.
What?
Yeah.
What? You
Yeah.
talk to us all the time.
Well,
I know.
This certain reporter seems to think that it has never been discussed at a council meeting that we're up there lobbying on behalf of the town and who makes the decisions. And I just want it to be clear that everybody's aware that we're doing this. It's
That's
not that
true.
We're going up to Tallahassee or DC just because
I actually
we want to get
remember
away.
the vice mayor distinctly saying, good, you guys go. I don't want to go. So we have talked about this in public and you just got to pay attention to
I believe
catch
I
it.
piggybacked on that as well.
Let me add just a bit of color on that, Andy. Having been a state legislator, having worked for a member of Congress, having been a lobbyist, I don't know if folks think this is some kind of a pleasure trip or a junket. It is not. And it is brutal and it takes a lot of their time. The mayor makes a whopping $19,200 a year. And those are huge chunks of his time that he goes out there. Obviously, our town staff is paid, but they're working over the weekends. They're doing a lot of prep time. They're on the road. It's not, and you're sitting in a hallway most of the time waiting for your meeting to start, and you're going between meeting to meeting. This is, and if you look at the return on the investment that these folks have gotten for the town, in terms of appropriations, in terms of potential help with FEMA resolution. I mean, the return on this investment is about as good as you're going to get. And so I don't have a lot of time for folks who denounce this effort. Prior to Ian, we had minimal presence at the state level and minimal presence at the DC level. And after a catastrophe like Ian, the investment of time in what these folks have been doing is extremely, there's a tremendous return on that investment. And I'm thankful that they're willing and have taken the time to do it. They've done a great job.
Well, just case in point, what is it? 15 point something million dollars we've got for a town hall, 8 million for the town hall, 7.7 in revenue replacement. Really? You know, we're not going up there for fun. And I watched Dan up there, and I got to keep prodding him. Let's go. No, I don't. But no, we do.
I think it's the other way around.
He's like, come on, let's go. No, but it is. I mean, I've been around a lot of towns, and I've managed 4 towns in Florida, and we do as good a job as any. But they're all up there. It's not us. I mean, we try to beat the group. We try to go a
You're
week
ahead of
before the
Florida
rest of the
League of
group
Cities, yeah.
goes. So, it's and we're waiting on next month to get a $7.7 million check basically for revenue replacement. I mean, it's well worth the, small investment made by the town.
I just wanted to make sure that we covered it.
Thank
so
you.
that someone can't say again, we didn't talk about it in a meeting.
Yes.
All right.
Did we?
That it, Andy?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Nancy?
I just gave you before the meeting started, you each received a copy of the final reading and public hearing agenda materials from June the 5th. This talks about the parallelogram lot, and it's just to refresh your memory on the issue. That's all.
Well, I think that Miramar, there was a couple of concerning things that they said in public comment that we're not getting back to them. If they're, I have not been to the site. I've driven by it, but I haven't specifically stopped at it that they're referring to. If in fact it isn't supposed to be where it is, have we been there to vet that? Has Joe looked at it?
Yes.
I don't know if John knows anything about this
No, yes.
particular
So
property.
After the meeting, when they first expressed it, that very day, we had Joe Speck go out there. We had Joe Speck pull the building plans and go over the plans versus where they were proposing to build. And we also brought in Judith and Sarah, our planners, to look at and find out if these allegations were true and whatnot. One, we would not let a structure go being built in this town currently without really looking at and doing our due diligence. Every once in a while, one does kind of catch up and smack you in the side of the head. This one here, we actually went out and looked at it, and the proposed part that's sticking out, which seems to be the point of contention, is part of the upper deck is sticking out roughly about 8 feet past the property line. 1/3 of that deck, not the entire deck, one corner, because of the way it's situated on the lot, would be over what the other houses on the sight line for the other houses on that.
And I'm assuming it has a piling supporting that corner.
That is correct. And I'm confident in our building official going out there and our 2 chief planners, both from Sarah's side and from Judith's side, saying that everything looks fine, everything is according to plan, that we're okay with it.
Well, if it's okay with my fellow council members, I'd like to direct staff to set up a meeting
We
with
definitely
Joe
will.
Speck, with our planners, if John needs to be there, to let them know at least, walk through, because they seem to think the opposite, and they haven't been told.
Well,
it sounds like.
Again, through emails that we've supplied certain council members about what the findings were between Judith and Sarah, went into great detail as far as what they were allowed to do and what they're not allowed to do. And the builder and homeowner of that particular lot are going along in a pace and plan that is accordance with the parallelogram lot that you can do.
And have they got their own independent inspectors on this, or is the town inspecting it?
I believe they have their own private provider.
There we go.
Yes, we all feel
Yeah.
the same way, but by Florida law, we can't really step on that toe. Now, Joe can actually supersede and say, okay, hey, I don't really agree with what you're saying, or he can go out to that job site at any given time and as a building official and say, wait a minute here, regardless of what you're doing, this is not accordance to our code and so forth moving forward. He has done that. He has been out to the site. He will continue to go out to the site as they continue construction. When he went out there, they basically had some horns.
Well, and again, he's the only one in staff that can make that determination, but my bigger concern is we've worked very hard as a town to make communication a number one thing.
Mhm.
And over the last month, it seems we've been getting emails and people coming here saying they're not getting any follow through. And that's concerning because I don't want to go backwards. Personally, I don't want to go back to where we were. So if it's something that we can make a change to make sure that we're getting back, they were obviously very passionate. They live on that street. They're concerned about safety. If we have to involve the fire district to see if the fire district have an issue, I just want to make sure that their concerns are addressed, that they are doing what they're supposed to be doing. And because of whether it's a policy change that we made or we didn't make, but as long as they're doing what they're supposed to do, that should be communicated to them, and to not get emails or phone calls back or a meeting scheduled, that just can't happen.
I will personally reach out to them today and I'll set up a meeting with our building official, our planners, and I will reach out to the fire district as well, sir.
Would you also email us that information and then a follow-up after the meeting, please?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
You know, one of the things I looked at this handout, you know, originally Homebound had brought this to our attention. I'm not familiar at all with Everglades construction. But if you look at the one page, sites affected by parallelogram shaped lots, the two highest on here are Fairweather and Miramar. Miramar has 32 lots that are affected by this. And I don't know how many of those 32 are being rebuilt, but I do know when you drive down Miramar, there's barely room for two cars right now to pass each other. It's a really, really skinny street. And then
The town manager he said he was out doing it. I happened to be going down Miramar. He was coming in. We could.
I had to get in a driveway.
I know.
Yeah.
So then when you talk about a house not having a driveway, not having parking, you know, maybe we need to look at this and say, hey, you know, the width of the street has to be such and such feet in order for this to apply or something. I don't know.
Well, but what was concerning to me in their comment was the 40%. Is it in fact over the 40%?
Right.
If so, that I don't remember a specific one on Miramar coming for the LPA and council to ask.
I haven't seen anything. Haven't seen
So
anything.
I mean, that's again, this is where I think this could have been handled, not in where we're handling it now, but in a simple follow-up phone call saying, have we addressed all of your issues? If not, let's figure them out, because they obviously don't feel that they've been represented well. And I want to make sure that we don't have that continue to happen.
Yes.
Thank you.
Anything else, Nancy?
No, sir.
Okay. Council member items, Councilor King.
Those took care of the Estero and the Knights issues were taken care of with me. Thank you.
Vice Mayor?
Nothing additional.
Councilor Woodson?
Nothing for me.
Councilor Saffold?
I have one quick question. Based on the MMP meeting last week, when are we going to notice the charter review?
I'll work with Nicole early this week and get it out.
Okay.
And are we going to work out, if I don't mind piggybacking on yours, Scott, because I was going to ask the same thing. We've already had people reach out that are interested in applying for that. Are we going to have a form similar to the other committees that they can go online and get? I know I directed one to you already, but person that was interested.
Correct. We're going to just adjust the committee application we have now just for that. Make sure the resume is attached, because that's what you, as a council, directed us. Just like audit and LPA, that includes a resume attached to it. So we'll just change our form around just a little bit.
Okay.
And that should follow your same appointment process. And as I think was pointed out at the M&P, that you might have people serving on other committees that want to also serve on the charter review, and then you would have to take a vote to allow that.
And we did say that charter committee is 5 people?
Correct. By
I think by charter.
by charter.
By charter, 5 people plus attorney plus, or a total of 5.
A total of 5 committee members. The attorneys usually, will be there. The
Yeah.
clerk is usually in attendance, and a council liaison.
But they're not part of the committee. So what I'm
Not
saying
voting.
is,
Correct.
no, what I'm saying is there's 5 people from the community that will go on that committee.
Correct.
Okay.
Anything else, Scott?
No, that's it. Thank you.
All mine was already covered. So With that, is there a motion to adjourn?
Jitterbug, let's go, move to adjourn.
All right, I'll second. Anybody opposed? We are adjourned at 11:09.
Wham.